Evelyn Caldwell had been married to Marcus for almost a decade. From the outside, they looked like the perfect couple. Successful, wealthy, and living in a beautiful home that spoke of years of dedication to building the ideal life. But as is often the case, what lay beneath the surface told a different story. A story that no one, least of all Marcus, could have predicted. It started with silence. Marcus spent long hours at work, late nights in meetings, and weekends away on business trips. And in that silence, Evelyn felt the distance growing. The man she married was no longer present, at least not in the way that mattered. She found herself alone, yearning for connection, for someone to notice her again, to listen, to care. And then there was Maya. Maya Thompson had been Marcus's secretary for 5 years. She was the calm behind the chaos, the steady hand that kept his professional life running smoothly. Marcus trusted her implicitly, but as Marcus grew more absorbed in his work, Evelyn found herself seeing Maya in a different light. Maya was always there, efficient, attentive, and above all, present. What started as casual conversations between Evelyn and Maya, small talk during social events, shared smiles at work functions, soon became something deeper. And then, before Evelyn even knew what was happening, it became something much darker. It wasn't planned. It never is. But the moment their eyes lingered a little too long, the shift between them was undeniable. Evelyn felt something stir inside her, a sense of longing she hadn't felt in years. Maya, too, seemed drawn to her. And soon the lines that separated Evelyn's private life from her husband's professional world began to blur. It started innocently enough. Maya would text Evelyn to ask her about personal things, how her day was going, if she needed anything. The messages seemed harmless until they weren't. Late-night conversations that once revolved around Marcus's schedule turned into secret, intimate confessions. Evelyn found herself opening up to Maya in ways she had never imagined, sharing her frustrations, her loneliness, her doubts about her marriage. Maya listened. Maya understood. And then one night, the boundaries shattered. In the darkness of Marcus's office after a late-night work event, Evelyn and Maya found themselves alone. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made it impossible to breathe. They stood close, their words barely more than whispers, and in that moment something broke. What had once been a quiet friendship, a comforting shoulder to lean on, turned into something far more dangerous. A stolen kiss, a secret held in the shadows of an empty office. And just like that, the affair began. For weeks, they kept their secret hidden. Evelyn and Maya danced around Marcus, careful not to leave any clues, any traces of their relationship. They became experts at subtlety, a look exchanged across the room when no one was watching, a touch that lingered just a little too long, a whispered conversation at the end of a phone call. The thrill of it all, the danger, the secrecy, made Evelyn feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. But Maya wanted more. It wasn't enough to be Evelyn's secret anymore. Maya had become obsessed, consumed by her need for Evelyn's full attention. She didn't just want the stolen moments, the late-night texts, the hurried goodbyes. She wanted it all. And slowly, Evelyn began to realize that what she thought was passion was in fact something far more terrifying. Maya wasn't going to settle for being hidden in the shadows. She was going to make sure Evelyn chose her, no matter what the cost. Maya's demands began to grow. The texts became more frequent, more urgent. She wanted Evelyn to leave Marcus, to start a new life with her. But Evelyn couldn't do it. She couldn't walk away from her marriage. her life, the man she had promised to stay with forever. Maya's frustration grew, and soon the affair that once felt thrilling became suffocating. Maya started to show up at unexpected places. She would appear at social gatherings uninvited, always finding a way to be near Evelyn, always watching. Evelyn tried to pull away, tried to put distance between them, but Maya wasn't willing to let go. And then one night, Evelyn came home to find something that made her blood run cold. A note slipped under her door, written in Maya's unmistakable handwriting. "If you don't tell him, I will." The message was clear. Maya was done waiting. She was done being the secret. If Evelyn didn't make a decision soon, Maya would make it for her. Evelyn was trapped. She knew that if Marcus found out, everything she had built would come crashing down. But Maya wasn't giving her a choice anymore. The affair had spiraled far beyond what Evelyn had ever imagined. And now it was on the brink of destroying everything. The wife, the secretary, the secrets, all of it was about to be exposed. And no one could predict just how devastating the fallout would be. Today, we unravel the story of Evelyn Caldwell, the wife of a successful businessman, and her secret affair with her husband's trusted secretary, Maya Thompson. What began as a hidden relationship between the two women quickly turned into something far more dangerous. Their secret soon set off a chain of events that shocked everyone involved, leading to betrayal, manipulation, and a confrontation that would leave lives shattered. Evelyn Caldwell had it all, at least from the outside. Married to Marcus Caldwell, a wealthy and successful businessman, her life appeared perfect. Lavish parties, expensive clothes, and a world of privilege surrounded her. But Evelyn's marriage, once full of promise, had become hollow. Marcus's focus on his work and long absences left Evelyn feeling isolated. The more success Marcus achieved, the more invisible Evelyn became. She felt like a stranger in her own home, unseen and unheard. In the midst of her loneliness, Maya Thompson, Marcus's secretary, entered Evelyn's life. Maya was always there, quiet, attentive, and above all, present. She seemed to understand Evelyn in a way Marcus never could. What started as casual conversations during Marcus's business dinners turned into deeper, more personal connections. And slowly, without Evelyn realizing it, she found herself drawn to Maya in ways she never anticipated. Evelyn and Maya's connection began innocently enough, a conversation here, a shared glance there. They exchanged stories about their lives, bonding over feelings of loneliness and isolation. Evelyn had never felt so seen before, and Maya's attentiveness filled the void Marcus had left. What began as friendly support quickly escalated into something more. Late-night texts turned into secretive phone calls, and soon their relationship crossed the line. Their affair was hidden in plain sight, meeting in places where no one would suspect, sharing moments that no one else could see. Maya became Evelyn's escape from the isolation of her marriage. It was thrilling, intoxicating, and dangerous. But Evelyn knew it couldn't last. The secrecy was starting to weigh on her, and the pressure of keeping their affair hidden was growing. Over the course of several months, Evelyn and Maya's affair deepened. Their relationship became more than just stolen moments. It became a lifeline for Evelyn. But the more they tried to keep it hidden, the more cracks began to show. Marcus, always busy with work, remained unaware. But Evelyn's guilt was growing. She found herself sneaking out late at night, making excuses for why she needed to leave the house. Each time she met Maya, the risk of being discovered grew. The affair was no longer a secret Evelyn could keep. The pressure of living a double life was tearing her apart, but Maya wasn't ready to let go. Each time Evelyn tried to pull away, Maya found a way to pull her back in. The relationship had reached a breaking point, and Evelyn knew that if things continued like this, everything she had would be destroyed. As their affair continued, Maya's demands began to grow. It was no longer enough for her to meet Evelyn in secret. Maya wanted more time, more commitment, more control over Evelyn's life. The passionate relationship that had once been an escape for Evelyn became suffocating. Maya's behavior shifted. She became possessive, demanding, and increasingly volatile. What had started as a hidden romance quickly spiraled into obsession. Maya no longer wanted to be the secret. She wanted Evelyn to leave Marcus, to choose her completely. But Evelyn wasn't ready to destroy her marriage, even if it was crumbling on its own. The more Evelyn hesitated, the more desperate Maya became. Their once thrilling affair had turned into a nightmare. Maya's obsession with Evelyn deepened. She began to show up unannounced, waiting outside Evelyn's house, lurking in the shadows. Every time Evelyn tried to pull away, Maya would remind her of the affair, remind her of the risk, the danger, and the consequences. Maya's grip on Evelyn tightened, and Evelyn began to feel trapped. There was no way out. Evelyn tried to end things with Maya multiple times, but every time she did, Maya's response was the same: threats. If Evelyn didn't leave Marcus, Maya would expose everything. Evelyn's carefully constructed life would come crashing down. There would be no way to escape the fallout. Evelyn was living in fear. Every time she heard a knock at the door or the sound of her phone buzzing, she felt a wave of panic wash over her. Maya's obsession had turned dangerous, and Evelyn knew that if she didn't act soon, everything she had worked so hard to protect would be destroyed. The final confrontation came on a night when Evelyn thought she had everything under control. Marcus was out of town, and Evelyn had been avoiding Maya's calls and messages for days. But Maya wasn't going to be ignored any longer. That night, she showed up at Evelyn's house unannounced, determined to get answers. Evelyn knew she couldn't avoid the confrontation any longer. She agreed to meet Maya outside, hoping to reason with her, but the meeting quickly escalated. Maya's anger had reached its peak, and Evelyn could see the desperation in her eyes. Maya demanded that Evelyn leave Marcus once and for all, threatening to expose their affair if she didn't comply. After the final confrontation, Evelyn knew that her life would never be the same. The affair that had once been her escape had turned into a nightmare that she couldn't outrun. Maya's obsession had taken over, and now Evelyn's world was falling apart. She could no longer hide the truth from Marcus, and she knew that it was only a matter of time before everything was exposed. The weight of her choices pressed down on her, and there was no turning back. Evelyn's marriage was crumbling, and Maya's presence loomed over her like a shadow she couldn't escape. The secret that had once felt thrilling had become a prison, and Evelyn was left to face the consequences of her actions. Evelyn knew the affair couldn't continue. Her guilt had become overwhelming, and she needed to put an end to it. But as she sat across from Maya one evening, preparing herself to finally say the words, something changed in Maya's demeanor. Evelyn could feel the tension, the quiet rage boiling just beneath the surface. The words were stuck in Evelyn's throat, but she forced them out. It has to stop. Maya's face remained still, her eyes dark and unblinking as she listened. Evelyn expected anger, maybe even a plea for her to reconsider, but Maya said nothing. Instead, she reached for her phone, her fingers tapping the screen slowly, methodically. When she finally looked up, there was something unrecognizable in her expression, something cold, something that made Evelyn's chest tighten with fear. Maya placed the phone on the table, sliding it toward Evelyn. The screen lit up with a message that would change everything. Evelyn's eyes widened as she read the words. It wasn't a plea, nor was it a threat. It was a decision. You have 1 hour to tell him, or I will. Evelyn's heart raced. She couldn't breathe. She had known Maya was capable of going to great lengths, but this was something else entirely. It was no longer just a threat. It was a promise. Maya was giving Evelyn no choice. Either Evelyn confessed everything to Marcus, or Maya would do it herself, and there would be no turning back. As the minutes ticked by, Evelyn's world began to unravel. She had thought she could control the situation, that she could end the affair on her terms, but Maya had taken that option away. Now everything rested on what she would do next. She had 60 minutes to decide, and the clock was ticking. But even as Evelyn tried to gather the courage to face Marcus, Maya wasn't done. Her control over Evelyn had reached new heights. The phone wasn't just a tool, it was a weapon. Every second Evelyn hesitated, Maya's power grew. She sent another message, this time showing Evelyn a photograph, proof of their affair, a moment captured in secret, one that could destroy Evelyn's life with a single click. Evelyn stared at the photograph, her mind racing. How could she have been so blind? Maya had planned for this. Every step of their affair had been documented. Every secret moment turned into leverage. Evelyn was no longer just facing a choice. She was being blackmailed. But Maya's plan didn't end with threats. As the minutes slipped away, she sent another message, and then another, each one more incriminating than the last. She had covered her tracks perfectly, making it clear to Evelyn that there was no way out. The affair wasn't just a secret anymore. It was a trap, and Evelyn was caught in it. The clock ticked louder in Evelyn's mind as she tried to think of a way out. Should she tell Marcus the truth? Should she confront Maya, beg her to stop? But Maya had already made it clear. This wasn't about love, or even revenge. This was about control. And she wasn't going to let Evelyn slip away. As the final seconds of Maya's ultimatum approached, Evelyn's phone buzzed one last time. She didn't want to look, but she knew she had no choice. The message was simple, cold, and final. Time's up. Evelyn froze. What would she do now? Should she rush to Marcus, confess everything, and hope for forgiveness? Or would she confront Maya, risking everything to stop the woman who had taken control of her life? But it was too late. Maya's plan was already in motion, and the consequences were about to unfold. But what Evelyn didn't realize was that Maya's control had reached beyond her expectations. The affair, the threats, the manipulation, it was only the beginning. What came next would turn the entire story on its head, leaving Evelyn with no one to trust, not even herself. With Marcus still unaware of what had been happening behind his back, Evelyn thought the worst was over. But as the hours passed, Maya made her next move. She sent the photograph, proof of their affair, to someone else, someone Evelyn had never expected to be dragged into the chaos. A friend, a family member, someone close enough to destroy everything. The ripple effects were immediate. Whispers began to spread. Friends who had once admired Evelyn's life now turned their backs. The facade of her perfect marriage crumbled before her eyes, all while Marcus remained oblivious. But Maya wasn't done yet. She had one more card to play, and it was the most devastating one of all. Evelyn thought she could protect herself by keeping quiet. She thought that if she could just manage to hold the truth in, everything would be okay. But Maya knew better. She had been planning for this moment all along. And as the final piece of her plan fell into place, Evelyn realized that the life she had built was about to collapse, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Evelyn's story isn't just about a failed affair. It's about the mounting pressure, the choices she made, and the evidence left behind that ultimately sealed her fate. The affair between Evelyn and Maya wasn't something easily hidden, despite how careful they thought they were. It was documented in every text, every email, every moment they thought was secret. These messages, seemingly innocent at first, became the threads that tied Evelyn to Maya, making it impossible for her to escape. Each text, each message, added to the weight of the affair, trapping Evelyn further in a situation that would soon spiral beyond her control. But it wasn't just the texts. Maya's behavior, well documented through emails and other communications, painted a clear picture of her obsession. The evidence didn't stop with texts. Maya had begun documenting every interaction, leaving behind a trail of emails and calls that would later become undeniable proof of their affair. In one email, Maya expressed her frustration with Evelyn's hesitation, writing, "You can't keep me in the shadows forever, Evelyn. I won't be your secret anymore." It's here where we see the first cracks in the relationship. Maya wasn't just demanding more of Evelyn's time. She was demanding more control over Evelyn's life. The tone of her messages had shifted, and Evelyn knew that things were about to get much more dangerous. As Evelyn's world began to crumble, others started to take notice. Friends who once admired her life of luxury started to witness the signs that something wasn't right. According to police reports, witnesses recalled seeing Evelyn act erratically in the weeks leading up to the incident. Some even spoke of Maya's presence, how she seemed to be always lurking, always watching. It wasn't just Evelyn's close friends who noticed. Neighbors, colleagues, they all began to see the signs of a life unraveling. Police reports indicate that Maya had begun showing up unannounced, waiting outside Evelyn's home, sometimes for hours, sending message after message. Let me ask you, if you were in Evelyn's position, would you have confessed to Marcus or tried to manage the situation in secret? Would you have taken control before it was too late? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The final piece of evidence, the one that changed everything, was something Evelyn never saw coming. Maya had documented their affair meticulously. In her mind, it wasn't just about love. It was about control, about making sure that Evelyn could never leave her. And Maya knew exactly how to use that documentation to ensure she had the upper hand. It was all there. Every meeting, every message, every promise they made to each other. And now Maya held all the cards. The evidence wasn't just a record of their affair, it was a weapon. A weapon Maya was prepared to use against Evelyn should she try to walk away. And then there was the final piece, the photograph that Evelyn had feared the most. It wasn't just proof of their affair. It was the one piece of evidence that would destroy her life completely. Maya had been waiting for the perfect moment to use it, and when she finally did, the fallout was immediate. Evelyn's life was reduced to that one moment, captured forever in a single image. An image she couldn't deny, an image she couldn't escape. And with that, everything fell apart. But it wasn't just the evidence of the affair that would seal Evelyn's fate. Friends and colleagues who once admired her began to speak out. Testimonies from those closest to her painted a picture of a woman whose life was falling apart, piece by piece. Some claimed they had seen the warning signs, Evelyn's growing paranoia, her erratic behavior. But no one stepped in. No one tried to stop it. And maybe that's where things went wrong. Maybe if someone had stepped in, if someone had seen the signs and tried to help, Evelyn's story would have ended differently. But by the time anyone realized what was happening, it was too late. Maya had taken control, and there was no turning back. The story of Evelyn Caldwell and Maya Thompson isn't just about an affair gone wrong. It's about the power of control, the weight of evidence, and the consequences of trusting the wrong person. The texts, the photos, the testimonies, they all became part of a narrative that Evelyn could no longer escape. And in the end, it was that evidence, meticulously documented, that brought everything crashing down. But what about you? What would you have done if you were in Evelyn's shoes? Would you have tried to come clean to Marcus? Or would you have stayed silent, hoping the situation would somehow resolve itself? There's no easy answer, but maybe there's something to learn from Evelyn's story. After all, sometimes the evidence speaks louder than anything else. As the pieces of Evelyn's world fell apart, Maya's grip only tightened. The evidence, the rumors, the whispers, they all pointed back to the one person Evelyn had trusted the most. But let me ask you something. What do you think Maya's next move was? After Evelyn tried to pull away, how far do you think Maya would go to maintain her control? Share your theories below, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories like this, where trust is shattered and consequences are inevitable. Maya had one last card to play, and it wasn't just about exposing the affair. She wanted more. She wanted control over Evelyn's entire life, and now she was willing to do whatever it took to get it. The final message Maya sent weren't just the end of an affair. They were the end of Evelyn's entire life, as she knew it. With every word, Maya pulled the rug out from under her, leaving her standing in the wreckage of a life she couldn't piece back together. And now, there was no going back. The clock was ticking. With every message Maya sent, with every whispered conversation that spread through their social circle, Evelyn felt the pressure building. She knew that she had lost control of the situation, but she couldn't admit it to herself. Not yet. She kept telling herself that she could fix it, that she could make it all go away. But deep down, Evelyn knew that Maya had already won. This story isn't just about an affair. It's about obsession, power, and the lengths people will go to get what they want. As the pieces of Evelyn's life shattered, Maya's control only tightened. It wasn't just the affair that tore Evelyn's world apart. It was the way Maya manipulated every whisper, every rumor, turning Evelyn's own life against her. But how far would Maya go to keep Evelyn under her control? When Evelyn thought it couldn't get worse, Maya had another move planned. It wasn't enough to expose the affair. Maya wanted complete control. This time, it was personal. The final message Evelyn received wasn't just another threat. It was the end of everything she thought she could salvage. Maya had targeted not just Evelyn, but someone close to her. Someone who would tear down Evelyn's life completely. With that final message, Maya ensured that Evelyn would lose everything. With every new message, Evelyn felt the walls closing in. Her friends, her husband, her entire life. Everything was slipping away. Maya had planned it all, and now Evelyn was trapped in a nightmare of her own making. No matter what Evelyn did, she couldn't escape the tightening grip Maya held over her. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was everything. The life Evelyn had worked so hard to protect was crumbling. And Maya? She watched it all fall apart from a distance, knowing she had won. The photograph had been seen, the affair was exposed, and Marcus knew everything. There was nothing Evelyn could do to stop the fallout. Her marriage, her friends, her carefully built life, all gone. But for Maya, this wasn't just a victory. It was a way to erase Evelyn completely from her own story. Evelyn returned home that night, exhausted and weighed down by the events of the past few days. She thought she was walking into the safety of her own house. But as she opened the door, the silence inside felt different, unnerving. She couldn't quite place why, but every step she took seemed louder, every creak of the floorboards more pronounced. And in that silence, something was off. She set down her keys and looked around the empty living room. Her phone buzzed on the table, but she didn't rush to answer it. She was tired, drained by the weight of the secrets she'd been carrying. But as she stood there, her eyes scanning the darkened corners of the room, something felt wrong. Evelyn hesitated, her hand reaching for her phone, her fingers hovering above the screen. The last message had been from Maya, more threats, more manipulation. But this time the phone wasn't lighting up with Maya's name. It was Marcus. The message preview flashed on her screen, but she couldn't bring herself to open it. Not yet. What Evelyn didn't realize, as she stood in that darkened room, was that she wasn't alone. Maya had already let herself in, watching silently from the shadows, waiting. As Evelyn finally reached for her phone, her fingers trembling, Maya took a step forward from the shadows. The air felt thick with tension. The quiet hum of the house suddenly filled with something far more threatening. Evelyn had no idea that everything was about to change. Evelyn finally read the message from Marcus, her heart pounding in her chest. He knew everything. Maya had made sure of that, but before she could respond, before she could even think of how to fix what had been broken, she felt it. Someone watching her. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up as she slowly turned. And that's when she saw her. Standing in the doorway, her face partially hidden by the shadows, was Maya. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Her presence alone was enough to send a shiver down Evelyn's spine. For a moment the two stood there in silence, the tension between them so thick it was almost suffocating. Maya's eyes never left Evelyn, her expression calm, cold, completely in control. Evelyn's throat tightened as she tried to find the words, but nothing came out. She knew in that moment that there was no escape. Maya's voice was barely above a whisper as she spoke, but every word sent a chill down Evelyn's spine. "You thought you could just walk away from this," she said. "That's not how it works." The tension in the room was unbearable. Evelyn knew what was coming, but she was powerless to stop it. Her phone buzzed again in her hand, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from Maya. The final move had been made, and now there was no going back. In that moment, Evelyn realized that everything had been leading to this. The affair, the lies, the manipulation, it had all brought her to this point. And now there was no escape from what was about to happen next. Evelyn opened her mouth to speak, but the words died in her throat. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating, until finally Maya broke it. "You thought you could hide this," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You thought you could just walk away, that everything would be fine." But there was no going back now. Evelyn's entire world was hanging by a thread, and Maya was about to cut it. Then Maya's lips twisted into a slow, cold smile. "It's too late," she said, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. "I've already told Marcus. I've already sent everything." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the messages flooding in. The world around her seemed to blur, her hands trembling as she tried to comprehend the damage. But before she could even respond, before she could even think, Maya leaned in close. So close Evelyn could feel her breath. "I didn't do this to hurt you," Maya whispered, her breath cold against Evelyn's ear. "I did it to show you who's really in control." Then, with a slow smile, she added, "And now I'll be watching as your world crumbles." Maya didn't need to stay to see the aftermath. She had already set everything in motion. She walked out of the house, leaving Evelyn standing alone in the ruins of her life. But the terror was just beginning. By the time Evelyn looked up, Maya was gone. But the damage was done. Everything Evelyn had tried to protect, her marriage, her friendships, her carefully constructed life, was shattered. And Maya would be watching from the shadows, knowing she had taken everything. Evelyn had lost control. And now there was no going back. The photos were out. The affair was public. Marcus knew everything, and the whispers were already spreading. Every message, every phone call was another nail in the coffin of her old life. Marcus didn't need to confront her. He didn't need to scream or rage. His silence, his absence, was the final blow. Evelyn's life, as she knew it, was over. And somewhere, watching from a distance, Maya was smiling. In the end, it wasn't just the affair that destroyed Evelyn. It was the control Maya had over her, the way she turned Evelyn's secrets into weapons. And now, Evelyn had nothing left. Evelyn's story is just the beginning. There are countless others who've faced betrayal, manipulation, and the darkest sides of human nature. Stay tuned, because next time we'll uncover a case that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Subscribe now to stay ahead of every twist. There's always more to a story, and you definitely won't want to miss what's next.